So if you want to get to the ball into the throat, you have to pull here and then turn your wrist this way, which is a really weak motion, all right? The other part about this is because my knee's closed off, you used to hear guys all the time, a lot of old school coaches were like, I don't want you on a knee because you're going to give up fast breaks. And they were actually completely true with this stance, because you're going to reach here and you're going to fall upfield. So if you didn't beat the guy clean, you were getting broke upfield. So this FOA system starts from the ground level with your stance. And we always tell guys you have 3 non-negotiables with your stance from a knee down perspective. Number 1 is the right knee has to be pointed towards the ball and the opponent. 2, the left foot needs to be up to the line. And 3, completely non-negotiable, this toe has to be locked. I hate seeing guys with their toe down because you can't stand up. So what that did immediately was now shorten the distance in which you have to punch your left hand to get to the ball. Okay, the ball's here. Instead of me having to punch upfield this way, now my left hand barely has to cross the midline. 2, I'm now going into a pressing motion. So I'm using basically bench press muscles instead of the backside of my shoulder. So there's no elbow flare. And the question I always get from kids and coaches alike is, how can I get my hands faster? And how can I increase my reaction to the whistle? And I always tell guys, that's not really the right question, because if you line up 50 face-off guys and I go slow motion video, on the whistle, they all basically move within a hair of each other. But the elite guys don't have any wasted motion. So for instance, I might have Billy lines up to the stance, and on the whistle, his elbow kicks. He reacted to the whistle, but his elbow kicked first before he clamped. So now his clamp takes twice as long as the guy who just presses his hand in because his hand moved on the whistle. So those are the things that we're looking at. So our first thing with our knee down stance is I try to really, I tell kids, I've made an entire career off of keeping my knee off the shaft so that my hips are open. So right knee pointing towards the ball, right toes locked, left foot's up to the line. That's our stance, okay? If we want to get details, right wrist should be cocked back, and at its purest form, a face-off on the whistle should be a press with the right hand. That's it, okay? Now, the ball is lined up higher on the stick now. So it has gone from left hand punch dominant to right hand punch dominant almost overnight with the new mechanics, which I love. And I'm even going to guess that over time, we're going to be moving further this way on the lineup, which I believe should happen, because that will really reduce the lockups that we see. So the right hand is the money motion right now, punching into the ball, and your whole goal is to make your ball stop hit the ball. I don't like the term punch down the line, because what that makes guys do is they sit back and they do this, and they basically give the ball to their opponent. When you say stuff the throat or get the ball to the ball stops, it means that I want this ball stop to hit the ball, and I should end with my helmet directly over the ball. So we want to be driving straight into the ball. Okay, so if our stance is dialed in and all things are correct that way, with our 3 points of emphasis, then we can get on top of that and we can work on our snaps. We call these the snaps because these are just 3 quick motions that basically define all offensive motions for a knee down guy who's in the moto grip. So the first motion is our quick clamp. The right hand punches straight into the ball, like always. The left hand barely crosses the midline, and I finish straight over top of the ball, okay? Left hand stays low, and we tell guys you have to be able to keep your left hand low on a clamp if you need to, because that's a big Achilles heel. If I study a guy who always lifts his left hand, I'm going to immediately start to lift his left hand on the whistle, especially if you have an LSM. That's the first Achilles heel they're going to look for. So we get that quick clamp out of the way. Then we go to a power clamp. So the power clamp is now designed, I don't know if any of you guys saw the TD versus Baptiste matchup last year, okay, but TD basically was giving up 50 pounds to Trevor. Trevor was beating him over the ball, and that's his strength. Instead of trying to be egotistical about that, TD decided to peel him off the ball with a power clamp. So TD's goal was to get around the ball, because those are the 2 planes that we have to try to dominate. You can either try to dominate someone this way or try to dominate them around. So our power clamp is going to drive our hands into the ball, staying low, and now we're going to shift our weight all the way to our hands on the whistle, and then we're going to come around. So now your left hand's going to 12 o'clock, okay? Then our third snap is our plunger. Same thing. Right hand always stuffs the ball to the throat, but now the left hand is coming up. So now our goal, when we do this right, boom, left hand comes up, all of my weight shifts to my right hand, and now if I do this right, I'm sideways to the ball. My shoulders are square to the sideline, okay? And what that does is that means once I get, and the reason we do the plunger, just so we're clear, is when your left hand comes up, it makes that top sidewall of the plastic knife down into the ball. So you can edge underneath your opponent's top sidewall. When you finish here, you're sideways to your opponent, which will lead you into your movement sets and your footwork, okay? So we have our stance dialed in the right angles. We now have our clamp, our power clamp, and our plunger. Off of that, we can start now working on our movement sets. So the movement sets come from there. The first one is our pinch and pop. The cornerstone of all of our offensive moves is what we call a pro hop. If anyone's seen me on Twitter, I scream at kids all the time for not getting to their feet because it drives me nuts. We want to drive this right hand into the ball. I'm sideways to my opponent. Now, because my right hand has its weight, this is my kickstand. I should stop my feet, and when I do it right, I should be straddling the midline right here. And this is the face-off equivalent of a triple threat position. If I have the ball pinned in between my plastic for that split second on my feet, I am now an option quarterback. So instead of me being a one-trick pony and just kind of hoping and ripping, I am now unscoutable because as soon as I do this, if my opponent falls upfield slightly, boom, I can go forward, okay? And that's our pinch and pop. If my opponent drop steps to stop the break, I roll my right wrist, and now I'm going back door, okay? So we have our front door, back door towards the right shoulder. If he drops into me, okay, and tries to come into my body, I can go TTL through the legs and go pick it up. So I got my front door, back door, and TTL through the legs, okay? And those are the movement sets that are all set up by getting to my feet sideways to my opponent in that triple threat position, okay? Another movement set will come when we are, and you will see the higher end face-off guys that are scouted consistently. Most of us are going to win our face-offs going into what we call a defensive draw. Most of Trevor's face-offs over his career were with this move because guys are so upset and freaking out about him going forward that as soon as they lose the clamp, they drop step. And he's going to get a lot of pulls on him. You're going to see more and more LSMs at this position. It's more LSM friendly than it's ever been. In fact, every guy in this room should have an LSM that is at least able to take face-offs, and I'll go over that because it's harder than it's ever been to beat LSMs. But the move that if we do it correctly, should work every time. We're going to drop our right hand in the ball, keep our left hand low, quick clamp, okay? And the reason we go to that is because the LSM is going to be taught to stand in a neutral grip stance and go for that break, because if he can pull you down the line a little bit, you have one step to exit and he can check. So goal number one is to get over top of the ball to stop the rake, not push down the line like some people teach, because that's going to exacerbate this and make it harder for me to get that clamp. Get over top. Once I've got the ball secure, we have to remember, we get one step legally to exit. So I don't want to lift my left hand and start doing this because that's technically withholding. So what I want to do is get over top. Goal number two is to protect the left hand from the LSM. So I'm going to rip this hand back into my body. And then, once my weight's on my hands, that's when I take my step and I swing my legs around. Boom. Now, right here is where I've defended my left hand from the LSM. Once that foot hits the ground, I pop towards the goalie. Okay? The LSM, at that point, he's going to be going for the rake, and then he's going to drop step, because if your LSM gives up a fast break goal, you'll probably kill him. Right? So he's going to go here, and as he drop steps, that's when you rotate away, creating that space. Okay? So once again, clamp, cut back, foot hits the ground, and you exit towards your goalie. So those are the main offensive motions for a guy who's on a knit. We've recently added one just because this position doesn't only change because of the rules, it changes because of the heads and the plastic and the way things bend. There's a move that I'm calling the click and drag, which basically, if you have a guy who's beating you over the top and you want to give him something like of a changeup, instead of driving into the ball hard and coming over top of it, you're basically going to reach in, and by doing this knifing motion real quick and ripping right out, the ball actually lifts up on the bottom sidewall for a second. So say we're facing off in a game and you just got faster hands than me on a knee. What I could do is, because you're beating me over the top, I can slide in as you clamp the ball lifts up under this sidewall, and then I just rip it out right away. And then I go to stand up and chase. You'll be able to get that once in a while. Guys will catch on to that. Okay, but those are the offensive moves that you can use from a knee down. All right, all different directions, speeds, and dominant motions. Then, once we have our knee down, that's when I usually go to the standing neutral grip. I personally think that's the best way to face off right now. It's the way I faced off my entire final year in the MLL, and I was catching guys off guard with it because the younger guys have no idea what to do with it. The advantage we have with standing, especially with the rules the way they are now, because the ball is higher up on our head, it gives the guy with speed a lot more of a chance. When the ball was down here at the throat and guys were choked up here, yeah, knee down, you had to do it. It was impossible to get your hand in there and get the ball out. Now that we're cleaner, all I've got to do is back this right foot up off the line a little bit, make sure the elbow's bent, and what I do out of this is I go pinch and pop. I love the standing neutral grip pinch and pop. It does the exact same principle that I just talked about with the click and drag, where you drive that right hand in so that the ball lifts up underneath the bottom sidewall. So, I'm sorry, on top of the bottom sidewall. So when I punch this right hand in, I lift my left, and right there, the ball ends up getting pinched right here. So as your opponent, because he's moto grip, has to go this way, he can't come underneath, I can go both ways. So as I cut in here, he goes to clamp on top, that's when I roll my wrist and it goes forward. It'll work constantly. And if it doesn't, it's all good because you step to the right, and we use this term a lot, belly to helmet. So my belly button is facing the top of his helmet. I'm on my feet, he's on his knee, and I'm screaming with holding, and he freaks out. Okay? So, and this is going to lead into what I'm telling guys now is from a counters perspective, I don't teach my guys any counters anymore. I think it's a waste of time. Rejam is illegal basically now. Okay? The second you make contact with his plastic, with your shaft, they're blowing it dead, and I'm a fan of that. I think it slows the face-off up. You can't come around and rip a guy's arm. If you do it now, you're a jerk, because guys are literally hyperextending their elbows. And the other part of it is we used to teach guys to shovel counter, meaning if you lose the clamp, step and lift this left hand. The problem is we've taught guys to get to their feet so much that now it just opens up the back door and it's easy to beat guys. So what I'm telling my guys now is when a guy wins a clamp, you're battling and he wins the clamp, immediately get to your feet and get belly to helmet. So now I'm standing over top of this guy. Basically, other than that Hopkins game where he cheated a lot, do you guys remember Zach Currier? Okay. Zach Currier used to do this all the time. He would lose every clamp in a game and then win 60% of the face-offs because he would literally stand here and on the whistle he'd stand up and guys were like, what are you doing? But they would get one step, he would stand here. He wouldn't come down to check and give you an option. He would basically say, your move, chief. And as soon as you stand up to pop it, he would just body you and pick it up. And we do a full-on drill called the belly to helmet drill with this, where guy stands here, the other guy starts down in his stance, the guy standing gives a cadence, down, set, go. This guy has to clamp, strict one step. I'm not allowed to check or anything. My only goal is to try to intercept it when you pop it out, wherever you exit to. And it's doubled my guy's footwork because you have to be on point to not lose a face-off that way. And it's also taught these guys, dude, swallow your ego. It's okay to lose a clamp. Just get to your feet and win the face-off. So that's what we're doing now with our guys as far as counters are concerned. So that's kind of the system in a nutshell, from the knee down to the stand-up. LSMs, same exact thing, standing neutral grip right here. Hold that hand nice and low on the left so you have more leverage for the plastic. And then they can either rake, they can go for that pinch and pop, or I tell them literally just step to the right, go belly to helmet, and you'll really annoy the hell out of guys. Because there's no answer for that. Lock the wings and just stand right over top of the guy. So that's kind of the system in a nutshell. I'm going to open it up to Q&A for you guys for the rest of the time here because I'm sure you have a lot of questions because I didn't go into a ton of detail.